Hello and welcome to Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby, and delighted to be joined today by Andrew from FundApps. How are you?
Nice to meet you. How are you doing? Very well, thank you.
So listen, well done. You have been listed on the Most Influential Fintechs of 2019 by the Financial Technologist. We had a pretty stellar judging panel involved in it, from EY to Lloyds to Barclays, and your business stood out. And well done for that. As I say, 2,000 considered, and a select few have been really highlighted within it. So it's great news for you. We've heard a lot about your business over the years, and it seems to have been going from strength to strength, as we'll hear about, I'm sure, in a short while. Sure. But for those of you who haven't maybe spoken to you before or heard too much about the business, give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, so FundApps, we're probably one of the very first RegTech companies, or regulatory technology, on a very simple remit. We saw back in 2009 asset managers, hedge funds, sell-side institutions across the globe basically interpreting the same regulations, trying to stay up to date with what's going on, obviously turning those regulations into some code or some process that they could automate, and then obviously trying to track that. We said that's silly that everybody's doing the same work and coming to different answers, and we said surely if we can put kind of a centralized software in place, but then also hire a team of compliance and legal who will then obviously stay up to date with regulation and code it, then we can provide, in essence, compliance as a service. So that was the theory. In 2010 we founded, and then over the years, obviously, it's taken up, and now we have 52 clients globally using our service. Basically, they send us their positional data, we tell them where they have compliance problems, whether that's investment restriction breaches or disclosures they need to make to our regulators. We basically automate that entire process.
In 2010, same year we started actually, was an interesting time. It was still a difficult economic period at that sort of stage. I guess it was, RegTech was starting to gather a little bit of pace. Tell me a little bit about the timing. Why was it the right time to start them for you?
That's a good question. Well, a simple one was that my previous business was sold to State Street, so I decided I didn't want to work for a large bank, and decided I'd do it all over again, but do it on the cloud this time. But you're right. I mean, it was post 2008. There was still quite a bit of consternation in the market, but we clearly saw back in the late 2000s that larger institutions were paying lots and lots of money for technology. They were buying Oracle databases and servers and middleware, and they were spending lots and lots of money just to keep the service up to date. And it was the old adage in SaaS that you want a glass of milk, you don't want to buy a cow. You just want the end product. And all these banks were spending lots of money in IT. And then for the smaller guys, the smaller hedge funds that wanted to be compliant, they just didn't have the kind of capabilities to maintain a large system, so having to get Oracle expertise and database expertise. So we saw this kind of perfect timing that there was people that just didn't want to have the IT headache of maintaining all these systems. And the second part was obviously the velocity of change in regulation was just increasing, and it still is. The idea that came UCITS 1 to UCITS 3, there was 17 years, then UCITS 3 to UCITS 4 was only a few years. So the speed of change is just massive. So that things that maybe were tenable back in the 90s and 2000s, you could maintain being up to date with the regulation, people were just falling behind. There was more and more sources, there's more and more places they needed to look to make sure they were being compliant. So it seemed like, hey, let's do this. And I think the up and coming nature of the cloud, people still thought Amazon was a bookshop. So for us, it was a little bit of a struggle at the beginning to kind of imply or to explain why cloud was the way forward, or why we thought it was the way forward.
Well, there's been that adoption, hasn't there, over the last 10 years or so. It's really gone from the financial markets having awareness of cloud to adopting it, and the cost-saving opportunities and ease of use for it, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
And I guess it's a lot of this which has led for you guys to be listed within the magazine. If I look at themes within this and what the judges were looking for, it's relevance. And I think one of those particular pieces that you guys look at is usability and relevance in terms of market. RegTech is still one of the hottest trends that everyone's talking about. But there are a lot of RegTech businesses, and there's a lot of companies out there who are doing this sort of thing, and ever more almost each week, I would guess at the moment. Yeah. Why do you think you guys stood out to the judges? What does make you guys stand out?
Well, I think to your point, first of all, RegTech, it is a super simple play. It's like there is regulation that you need to comply with. It's not a nice to have. It's not a back scratcher. It's not that thing that you buy in QVC at 2 o'clock in the morning. It is something that you actually need in your life. And if you're not using our service, you're doing it probably manually. So I think that kind of RegTech already kind of ticks most of the boxes that a lot of companies don't meet. It is a need. Probably the product does the job that it needs to. Whether it's quite good enough or not is always the problem. I think for us in particular, I always say that nobody leaves college and wants to join a RegTech company. I mean, you need to have worked in the industry for a few years or many years to have understood what the institutions are doing badly or doing wrongly, in my opinion. So that for me was 15 years as a coder and product manager and salesperson, seeing financial institutions with Excel sheets and people copying and pasting things and seeing how badly they were doing regulation to, okay, I can automate this and do it better. And then obviously, you know, that experience transferred itself into the product itself, that we kind of knew from day one, it needs to do this, this, and this, and this to be successful. And I think that's, we all know about minimal viable product MVPs, that when we went to market, obviously we were a bit embarrassed about the UI at the beginning, but it did the job. And obviously over the years, it does more and more and more, and the UI gets better. But I think that thing of doing that, a thing that the client has value or sees value in and adds value to their business and not just as a nice to have is the key thing.
It's a brilliantly straightforward thing, that, isn't it? To look at it, but I think it's the maker or breaker of almost any fintech company, isn't it? It's looking at a genuine problem and solving an issue that needs to be fixed. And, and I think if you've got that sort of thing, which you guys clearly have, it's
and it has to, I think the other thing as well is as a new company or as a scale up or a startup, you're fighting the incumbents, and that's not easy. It might be okay on the App Store because people will just download something because it looks fun, but we all know the sales cycle into financial institutions is long and tiresome. So you need to be X times better than the incumbents. So for us, it was like, you know, if we make the rules 10% faster and the UI 5% prettier than the other systems out there, we won't win. But for us, it was like, let's absolutely turn the problem on its head. And like, people don't want to buy a rules engine and code the rules themselves. They just want to be compliant. So we thought, well, actually, they don't want a rules engine. They don't want the software. They want a service. We give you the data, you tell us if you're compliant or not. And that's where we kind of were X times better than the current process. And I think that's a lot of people do, that they'll make something that's slightly like Excel but a bit better, or they'll do something that's, you know, slightly like a data warehouse but just a little bit sexier. There's not that much added value for somebody to say, I'm going to switch off my internal system and take a punt with you guys. So for us, it was, you know, be 10 times better than the incumbents or your existing process, and that will be the way that you prove value. Yeah.
And it's been off the basis of that, and that sort of philosophy has been hugely successful for you as a business. And yeah, we've seen it grow and grow. I think you know, we were talking earlier on that you doubled the business last year, which is fantastic. Why is that happening? What's next for you? I mean, you know, doubling a business and doubling it again is a tricky task, isn't it? What's 2019 hold for you?
So I mean, going historically, we have grown on average more than 50% every year. So 100% will be tricky, but not out of the question. But without doubt, it's a perfect timing again. We've transgressed that tricky phase of, you know, 5 to 15 employees, where you're still a small, scary startup for most financial institutions. Our service is truly strength in numbers. The more clients that we have on the platform, they all use the same rules. So it's very much well, if Barclays are using it, Lloyds are using it, and so on, then I should probably use it too, because we're all in the same boat. So for us, the more clients that start to use us, the better the service gets. So we're reading that critical mass now that people are hearing about us. The usual thing in the city, somebody asks you over a pint, what are you using? They say FundApps. You're like, oh, I must check that out. So we're getting a lot of referrals, a lot of people that hear about us word of mouth. So we will carry on. As I said, 52 clients now. We guess or reckon there's an addressable market of about 1,000 to 2,000 financial institutions globally, probably closer to 2,000. So, you know, from 50 to 2,000 is still a long way to go. And as I said, perfect timing. The cloud is no longer an issue. We're already seeing financial institutions that said we'll only want a cloud solution, which is awesome to us, and that's the, you know, music to our ears. It's gone full circle from cloud over our dead body to maybe cloud to not bad to actually we only want a software as a service model. And, you know, I think, as you said earlier, more and more banks will realize the cost saving, scalability of advantage that cloud brings, and you know, install software will die. So for us, keep on winning over new clients and convincing people the joys of cloud, as we call it, and obviously opening up new markets and new territories, and, you know, expanding our horizons.
And you see that as a sort of macro theme as well, I presume. You know, when you talk about the adoption of cloud now becoming more and more commonplace, I mean, it sort of spread outside of finance a lot quicker than it did within finance. There was a lot of work that needed to do to really for it to become mainstream and build the confidence, I guess, as much as anything else within it. there's traditionally been that sort of reticence within financial services to keep up with some of the innovation that's happened technology-wise outside of the industry. What do you see as some of the key themes of this year?
So yeah, I say oftentimes that my grandmother has better technology than most financial institutions. She has an iPad, she downloads apps, she has very intuitive apps that do things for her, whereas banks are still using spreadsheets or software that was designed back in the 90s. So it has absolutely flipped that from back in the day where banks were the powerhouses of technology and they hired all the best developers and the milk round, etc., to now consumers have even higher technology. So the fact that people make jokes about bankers carrying Blackberries because at home we all have iPhones, and I think that really that inversion banks have to realize that people, technology is not just a key advantage for you to do business, it's also to attract people. And you as a bank, you're obviously trying to keep and attract the best talent. If you have newer, shinier systems and better technology than your competitor bank, that's the reason people will join you. So we really see technology just not for technology's sake, but it is really a driver for a lot of companies to hire, to retain, to gain advantage over their competitors. And obviously we're a technology shop, so for us it's about using as much as we can to make the banks more efficient. Yeah,
I think that's a key thing, isn't it? Particularly when you look at we ran in one of the magazines last year. We looked at the ultimate fintech workplace and wrote a blueprint for it. And one of those things is quality of colleagues. But with the theme that came time and time again from both applicants who are looking for the best place to work was actually having the companies themselves was actually having that sort of game-changing technology to play with. And I guess that works for you nicely as a with such innovation in what you're doing, a decent attraction tool for the business as well.
Yeah, I mean it works for us as well. The better technology we use and the more advanced we use, the easier it is for us to hire as well. But I think it's certainly, I think we call the company FundApps. It was a bit of a joke because we don't make an app per se for a phone, but the idea was that software should be so intuitive and so simple that you can download something from the App Store and start using it within about a minute. You don't need a handbook. You don't need some person to come in and train you for 3 days to say, here, Tony, this is how you use the system, or where's the 100-page manual? I can start using it. And we find we get we have jokes when people send in RFPs saying, can you describe how big is your manual? And we're like, no, honestly, our system is that easy to use that you don't need a 100-page manual in 5 languages showing you how to create something or do something. It's just, it's as easy to use as Facebook is. So I think the banks are getting their head around that software should be easy. It's not a monolithic, crazy old system that's black screens and 55 menus. It's all about usability, which again adds to the job satisfaction, that if you're using something that is a joy to use and usable and is attractive to the eye, then your job is more pleasant than if you're just using some clunky old system that has a million menus in grey. Yeah, that usability has become a core theme of everything we've looked at, and a definite trait of the most successful businesses. When people are there and it's and easy to use, and it's as I say, addressing those issues, and you've got a common theme I think from everyone we've spoken to in the events that we've held on the subject recently has been focus. So, solve the right problems and make it simple for people to use it, and it seems like you guys are doing that brilliantly well at the moment. I think focus. It's one of our company values. As a human nowadays, it's difficult to do because the phone's beeping and there's red dots on all your apps. But that is the one thing that I see most other companies or entrepreneurs, they try and please all the people all the time. They'll build a software that tries and be an order management system, compliance, and do this and reporting and blah blah blah. Where we all know something that does one thing very well is generally what you want to use. The right tool for the job, and for us that's been a 10-year overnight success, as somebody called us recently. Suddenly people hear about us, but we've been here. We're completely bootstrapped. We've never taken a penny of funding, so it's all just been organically grown out of customer revenue, which means that we really have kind of hopefully nailed what we think needs to be done in regulatory compliance.
It certainly sounds that way. Look, there's 52 who found that secret so far. There's another couple of thousand to go with it. So how do those people who are watching now get in touch with you?
Very simply, fundapps.co, not .com, but .co. Drop us a line, have a look at our website. Send us a query through the website. We'll be in touch straight away. I'm sure it'll be ringing off the hook now for you. Listen, lovely to meet you. Thank you very much. Thanks so much for coming in. Cheers, my pleasure. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon on another episode of Fintech Focus TV. Thanks for watching.